think about things that you want to accomplish in your life, and when you think about the things that you consider major milestones in your life, what are those things? Welcome back to the Brewed for Life podcast. As always, my name's Dan. I'm your host, and I appreciate everything that this podcast brings forth for myself, and I hope you guys are enjoying listening and have some kind of a connection to the stories that I share and some of the insight that I share. What are those things that you consider to be major milestones? For me, I would say the first major milestone I think would be maybe getting in high school, and then followed up by getting your driver's license, going to college, graduating, either, both high school and college. And then next would probably be, depending on your path, either buying a home or getting married, not necessarily in those orders. What are yours? What do you think is the most important step? And what do you think is the most monumental part of those milestones in life? One of the first and foremost things would definitely be the birth of your child. I've talked multiple times about how just having a kid and how much your life changes and how much you invest in all of that instantly, like you've never known anything other than that. Having a kid is easily the biggest, most rewarding milestone that you could have in your life. As far as those, steps that I think most people would consider to be the life steps or the milestones within somebody's life. I think mine would probably be buying my first house and just buying a house in general. And what's crazy about it is everybody knows that buying a house is not easy, and it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of money that you need to be able to save to be able to afford the down payment and the process that it takes to be able to buy a home. But I think part of the things that aren't talked about enough is, for lack of a better word, the colonoscopy you get as you go through the process. They literally check your credit report, they check every attribute and every aspect of your credit report. You need to hand in all of your financial documents for your retirement and for your bank accounts and any other investments you might own. And then they dig through all of that, and they might tell you, well, you need this and you need this and you need that. And it seems like it's a never fucking ending process of them taking their arm and burying it as far up your backside as they can and turning you into a puppet. And then you get, you get your result as to whether or not you're going to be able to achieve the loan that is necessary to buy your house. And that's not the ending of it. There's also the steps of, is the bank going to come out? Are they going to appraise your house at what you're buying it for? And if they're not, then how much cash do you have available to make up the difference? Or do you go back to the table and renegotiate whether or not, you're going to buy this house and the price? Now, recently, we bought our house in July. And I think the funny part and the crazy part about the market in previous years, that being like the last couple of years, is that houses were going for way over their value. And interest rates are, I don't want to say they're at historical highs, because they're not. Historically, interest rates are at the upper end, which would be, probably around 8%. In some years, they were actually double digits. I think we just got, we got a point where interest rates were so low that we think that these like 7% or 6.5%, whatever they're at now, is a high number. And it's not. It's not a high number at all. If you look back in history, I think back in like the 80s, houses were dirt cheap, but interest rates were like 12%. So we'll take this interest rate where it's at. What's tough is that houses are being sold for more, and most things were going into bidding wars. Now, from a standpoint of when we were looking to buy a house, that was just something that we were not going to be willing to do. We were not going to overpay for a house. We had a certain idea of where we wanted to be, and we wanted to get the most for our money within that. And I think we did a great job of doing that. We got a house that was listed at one price, and we actually ended up getting it for $35,000 less than what the initial asking price was. And it was definitely on the higher side of what we wanted to spend, but we knew we could move in and not have to do anything. We just needed to move in. The whole house was renovated, maybe some outside yard work and some other things, but the house really checked off everything that we were looking for. So we paid a decent amount for the house. And through the process before we got here, some of the houses we looked at that we really, really liked, we put offers in, and we went in up above asking because that's the way the market was, but we were also looking at houses that were listed significantly lower than what we ended up spending. And what's crazy is that when we bought this house, it literally appraised for only a few $1,000s more than what we paid for it. So we actually somehow found a sweet spot. For those people that bought houses that they paid way over asking, and you got to remember, that price that a house gets listed for is based on the amenities and what other comparable homes have sold in the area, and that's how they come to what that house is worth. And usually that asking price is within general pretty close to what its value is going to be when it comes to the mortgage side of things. You might be able to get, like $10,000-$15,000 as a sold price under what its market value is or what its appraised value is. But in the market right now, I think that's probably few and far between. I think most houses are closer to what we ended up with. But these people that bought homes and paid substantially over the asking price, why would you want to pay that much out of a pocket for a house that you just bought and now you're already underwater in the investment on your property? Because now you already paid more than that house is going to be worth. I'm not saying that the market's not going to get back up to where it is now when things settle out. But what happens if it doesn't? What happens when, your house is now worth, argument's sake, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 less than what you owe on it? How do you refi that? How do you tell the bank, and how does the bank come to a conclusion that to refinance your loan for what is left on it when what's left on it is more than the house is worth? You no longer have any equity in it. It's an interesting thing. I mean, in the 3 homes that I've owned, this being the third, I've never run into that. My first thing that I bought was a townhouse. I paid $115,000 for it, and it had equity in it right away. My second home, I paid $160,000 for it, and I ended up selling that for $265,000. So, but I sold it. I bought it at a decent point, and I sold it at a point when the market was crazy. So that's how I was able to capitalize on all of that. It also helped I was going through a divorce, so I didn't need the house anymore. I didn't need to sell it in order to be able to buy something else. It was just, let's sell this house, let's split the equity and move on, go our own separate ways. And I was fine with that. But what happens now? What happens with all these homes now? It's wild that the market has gotten like this. What's also crazy is that when I bought my condo, people were getting loans without verification of income. So that's what caused all of that issue when a lot of properties were getting foreclosed on, because they didn't verify income, and a lot of people bought and used an APR style interest rate as opposed to a fixed interest rate. And what happened was when that APR adjusted, their mortgage jumped significantly because now they were at a higher interest rate based on a whole bunch of factors. And they couldn't afford their home anymore, so the banks were forced to foreclose on them. And that's a little scary because nobody wants that. Nobody wants to foreclose on your home, but if you financially can't make the payments on it, the bank is really left with no other option. They could short sale it if they're willing to lose all the interest that's in the property. It's real estate can be really, really, really wild at times. It has its ups, it has its downs. You have to pay attention and find where your comfort zone is. Outside of buying this house, I've always looked at what I was going to look at as far as a home price based on what I was comfortable paying every month. And that's usually a good way to go about it, because the bank will allow you to have, based on your income, they're going to tell you that you qualify for a bunch of money. But what they don't tell you is that, yes, you will qualify for that loan, but that loan is just based on the property. And then you have to add into that all of your utilities, your basic living things, like cable, clothes, food, car insurance, cell phone, gas, property taxes, like all of that stuff. And when you start putting those things together and you bought on the higher side of what you qualified for, now you're in trouble. Like credit card payments, there's a lot of stuff that contributes to what you're shelling out every month. And too many people look at just that mortgage price and what it's going to cost them, and not enough about the total picture of to what their expenses were going to be. So please, if you're in the market of buying a home, I am nowhere near an expert on any of this. I don't want you to reach out to me because I don't want to be blamed for giving anybody bad advice. All I can do is say, listen to what my experience was and make sure you find yourself a good mortgage, company. Check several different ones, because not all of them are just like when you go to get a car loan. Not all of them are going to give you the same interest rate. Not all of them are going to be able to qualify you for special things like down payment assistance or first-time home buyer credit or any of that kind of stuff. So do your due diligence. Don't just level in at one bank and say, this is where I'm going to buy my home from, because it might not be the smartest move for you. Now, the next milestone, I think, would be getting married. And me, I've already done it twice, and I'm definitely going to do it a third time with arguably the person who seems to fit into my life the best. She has been my best friend. She has been through my side through thick and thin. We have endured a lot of challenges to even get where we are, and we continue to work together as a team to conquer whatever it is that comes in front of us. And this is probably the first time where I've really understood what a real relationship is really about. Now, I'm not going to say that I haven't been in my first marriage was with my oldest son's mom, and I think we were together, and I didn't really have any issues with our relationship. I think the moving parts of the one that I'm in now with Audrey is definitely, it has more things that really embrace what a relationship is about. And I've talked about it before, like my oldest son's mom and I, we have a great relationship now. We're great friends. I think that the relationship I'm in right now is definitely significantly better. And it's the best relationship I've ever been in my life. I can't ask for more from this relationship. She's incredibly supportive. She keeps me on my toes as far as when I'm out of line, and reminds me at times when there are opportunities for me to work on myself and how I handle things in my life. And I dare to say that she hasn't been wrong. When I sit back and I reflect at what she has said, and because, I want to know, I want to make sure that I am the best man, the best dad, the best partner, the best friend I could be for not just her and our relationship, but for the boys. And she allows me to do these things. She's very active and very much a part of every attribute of everything. And I couldn't be in a much happier place. With that said, this job change that I'm going through, that relationship has a huge part of it. I've always been the kind of person where I allow my frustrations and my stresses and all those things that happen at work, I could bring them home. And I found myself not necessarily handling things when I was home. Like my stress would make me a little bit more short-fused, and I would say things that were out of character, and it's just overall like I was an asshole. You know, I wasn't a bad person. It's just I didn't have the greatest way of dealing with all that. And that's one of the main things as to why I'm making this job change, because I could feel all those things starting to come in. And Audrey has expressed to me at a couple different times that, listen, like, I need you to take it down a notch. I know you're stressed and I know work was this, this, and this today, but like, I need you to refocus and be aware of what's going on right now. And I can't, you know, like, I've never had anybody say that. Everybody else has just kind of let me do, like, let me just ride it out until I settled in. Whereas she's kind of like a slap to the face that says, hey, like, I know you had a shitty day, but you have all this good shit around you. Fucking snap out of it. And nobody's ever done that for me, you know, and I can't thank her enough for you know, dealing with my bullshit and helping me navigate a way to get back to feeling more like myself and more of being not just a great partner in this relationship, but a better dad. And it's 100% her. She was the reason why, you know. She has always had this aura about her, and I think that the first time I met her, yes, I was 100% physically attracted to her, but like as I got to know her a little bit more, it just seemed like the two puzzle pieces just fit together. And as much as we didn't communicate that, you know, what either one of us was thinking or feeling at the time, as we got to know each other, but we just followed the course. And I followed the course probably in a path that I shouldn't have while I was married, but I did. I followed the course because, again, like I've never felt the way I have about her with anybody else, and she always just felt like she was there. She was by my side. She was my best friend. She was my partner, and even while I was married, like not once did I ever think about, you know, where my wife was or what she was doing, and I didn't miss talking to her throughout the day because I kept myself busy. But like when I wasn't talking to Audrey, it felt like a piece of me wasn't there. It felt like a piece of me was missing. And I guess that's one of the things that tells you that's the person that you're supposed to be with. So this milestone that's coming for us when we, if, you know, plan when we're going to get married and how we're going to do it, it's going to be one of the final touches of something that is incredibly important to me, and then legally we can officially ride the rest of this life out together as a unit. And I look forward to that very much. You know, I look forward every single day where we get to wake up next to each other and start our day together and end the day together, and it's perfection is what it is. Outside of that, you know, like I didn't really go to college, so that milestone was not that important to me. I was never a real nerdy person or anybody that was into school. I didn't like being forced to do shit that I didn't want to do when I was in school. I love history and I love watching all that stuff on TV, but I didn't want to sit in a fucking classroom and be like balked at for 45 minutes, an hour and a half or whatever. So graduating high school was monumental because it meant I get to be out on my own. But college just wasn't for me. I think one of my other milestones may have been buying my first car, and that was pretty significant. I did that right out of high school, and ironically, the first thing that, you know, I bought my Jeep, and a few months later or whatever it was, we drove that Jeep all the way down to Florida for a week, me and a couple of friends, and that was an incredible experience as an 18, 19-year-old kid being in Miami, going in the bars. It was quite an experience, and obviously driving down and back. You know, I'd never done that before. I'd never driven that far before. The furthest I'd driven was Maryland, but what an experience. Life is full of things, full of milestones, full of accomplishments, full of goals, and you can't be scared to chase them. You can't be scared to embrace them. And I like I said, I am the most comfortable and most excited about my future. I am excited about everything that's going to come around these turns, and I'm excited to be able to enjoy it with my best friend and the love of my life. And I just hope I can be around for as long as possible. I mean, I'm not that old. I'm going to be 47 this year. I mean, but I got a lot of time ahead of me. But I'm excited for the experiences and everything that's going to come along with it. So please continue to listen. Please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear what you guys are doing and what your experiences are. And jump on, follow the Instagram pages, check out the YouTube page. There's going to be another video going up today. And as always, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for listening, and thank you so much for the support.